Colin Tipping, welcome.
Thank you. I mean, it's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm a little bit proud that you're participating. It's a great honor to meet you and to have you here in the first German online forgiveness conference.
Yeah.
So, I'm really excited about hearing from your personal experiences and from your work with all those people up there. And, hearing a little bit about the success of the effectiveness of your radical forgiveness method.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say how it's a great pleasure for me to be associated with this German version. That there are some English-speaking people here, but I have a very strong relationship with people in Germany. I've trained a lot of coaches out there with wonderful partner, Hina and Thomas. Hina Fru and Thomas Kielfru. And so I hope there'll be a number of the coaches that I've trained personally and they have trained who might be listening in and listening in English. I have to apologize in advance in case I have a coughing fit. I'm just getting over a cold, and you can probably hear that I'm a little croaky and have to clear my throat occasionally, but I think we'll be fine. And I'll enjoy doing this presentation with you, and I will certainly go into how it all started and where it is now, and where I am with it. And I'd also like to offer a process so that people can actually experience it a little bit. So, if excuse me, so let's get into it. I'll answer your question right away. How it came about, really, and that was quite a way back now in the 1990s. It came about out of a distinct need. I was doing hypnotherapy at the time. I'd got qualified. I'd gone to America from England in 1984. And become certified as a clinical hypnotherapist. And for some reason, and I didn't understand why at the time, I now know, that I was attracting people who had cancer or had some association with it in terms of maybe their partner had had it or something like that. But cancer was the topic that kept coming up for me to work with. And I didn't know why, because I didn't have any history of it in my family or with myself. So as I started working with these folks, what I came to understand was that they had a certain type of personality. And this is through research. It just wasn't just me observing it. The research showed that people who had cancer had a tendency to find forgiveness to be very difficult. Because they had a tendency to always repress their emotions about things that had happened and operated really out of denial most of their lives and didn't deal with those issues that forgiveness might have ameliorated for them. And so the more I looked into that, the more there was a connection between cancer and an inability to forgive. And there are many, many researchers that had come to that conclusion. And even to the extent where they defined what they called a cancer personality. So in my naivety, I thought, well, all I have to do is teach them to forgive.
Because it's so easy, right?
Exactly. So actually, we started doing retreats. My wife and I, Joanne and myself, started doing retreats up in the mountains for 5 days, helping them come to a place of forgiveness over things that have happened to them in the past. And very quickly realized, of course, what everybody knows, that forgiveness is damn difficult and takes many years, if we're talking about traditional forgiveness. And nobody really wants to do it. Least of all these people that we were dealing with. first of all, they didn't even realize they had a need to forgive. And secondly, they weren't convinced that they needed to. So it was then that I said to Joanne, well, we had been working a little bit with the Course in Miracles, and that is about forgiveness, of course. Although I don't claim to be a student of the Course, but I looked at it and realized that was the kind of forgiveness that I could relate to personally. And so I said, well, let's create a form of forgiveness that these folks can use that is very quick. It's basically instantaneous, that it's very easy to do. Anybody could do it. They didn't have to have any particular kind of belief system, or certainly not religion, no particular skill. In other words, anybody, pretty much anybody could do it. And we would create a form of forgiveness that would work for them. And that's really how it started, and that's radical forgiveness. So it started out by that need. Then in 1997, I decided to write a book based on the tools that I'd already created to help people do the forgiveness work, because I realized that unless you give someone some sort of a method, a tool of some sort, that no one was going to really do it. It just, in most people's mind, forgiveness was something that was extremely difficult, and they didn't want to do it anyway. It's not sexy.
No, it isn't.
Okay. So, but give them a tool, a simple tool that they can use, and that might help. So we had already created a worksheet, and it's more or less the same worksheet I'm using today. And the book was really started out as an explanation of how to use these tools. That's really how the whole thing started. Once I had written the book in 1997, and the title of that was Radical Forgiveness, Making Room for the Miracle. Mm. And it sold a lot of copies quite quickly, and continues to do so, much to my delight. And then I started doing workshops based on radical forgiveness in 1998, and the rest is history. We've done it all around the world, and continue to do so today. So let me try to explain, unless you have a question.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
I'm very much interested how you came up with those tools, before developing the workshop. How did you get to the place to understand how you could solve those problems, related to the cancer personality, to the resistance against forgiveness, and so on?
Well, as I said, the Course in Miracles was influential. I found it very difficult to actually use the Course. It's very
everyone does
very intellectual, and so it's almost like I got it immediately, intuitively, and looking back, what I think happened is I got it downloaded. I was given it. I didn't come to it through a big event of my own that I had to forgive. It sort of came to me. It was given to me. That's the best way I can describe it, because it just made perfect sense.
And it worked, right?
And it worked.
Yes.
But I also had was influenced by his name has just gone out of my head. A guy that was doing these workshops, and he had a worksheet. It'll come to me in a minute. And I thought, wow, that's a good idea. So I looked at this worksheet and also found that too difficult, so I designed my own. And at first just thought, well, worksheet helps people to kind of get things together and organize one's thoughts. What I didn't understand at the time was that it's actually an energy instrument. That when people do these worksheets, something happens at an energetic level that is beyond understanding. I think what I believe is that it taps us into our own spiritual intelligence. And I think we have three forms of intelligence. We have the mental intelligence, which is the intelligence of the mind. We have the emotional intelligence, which is the intelligence of the heart. And then the spiritual intelligence, which is the intelligence of the soul, or the higher self. And that when we do these worksheets, we're tapping into that intelligence of the soul, which of course knows exactly who we are and why we're here and why we have these events turning up in our lives that need forgiving as all part of our lessons for the soul. And so these worksheets help us to tap into that intelligence. So, and what we found over the years is that it doesn't work if you don't use the tools, funnily enough. You can't do it in your head.
Yeah.
And because what happens when you do it in your head is that your intellect comes in and says, that's a load of rubbish. How can that be perfect? And that kind of
hijacking totally the process.
Yeah. So I wish I could think of his name. I want to acknowledge him. But anyway, so that's how it started. The book was sort of an explanation of how these worksheets, or how to use the worksheets, and it developed from there into a sort of a philosophy of life. And it has become that now. Radical forgiveness is a way to live, is the way I put it. Once we embrace the idea that nothing wrong is really happening because it's all part of one's divine plan for one's life, so to speak, and that we are choosing these experiences, which is basically the essence of radical forgiveness, that we take responsibility for everything that happens to us because that's what our soul wants us to experience.
May I interject here?
Yeah.
That's very important. And the idea is not to say, yes, it's divine, I have to believe this. The idea is I experience it to be valuable and right.
Yeah.
When I do that process. Yes. And if I'm willing to, just as a hypothesis, to accept that idea, it will be proven to me afterwards experientially.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I always stress that belief is not necessary. And I always shock people in my lectures because I say, I don't even believe it. Because my mind is always saying to me, how can that possibly be? That's ridiculous. Okay. And yet, whenever I do it, using the tools, I experience the shift. So the only test is whether it works or not.
Exactly.
That's the only test. So let me see if I can simplify it down to 5 basic steps in the radical forgiveness process. And the first, we call it stages rather than steps in order to differentiate it between a process. But the first stage in the forgiveness process, so to speak, is just simply to tell the story. What actually happened to me? Who did what and how did it feel? And so that's normal. That's what anybody would do in doing any kind of a forgiveness process. They'd say, what happened? The second stage, which we feel very important, is to feel the feelings associated with that story. And that's where a lot of people block. They block it out. And the more spiritual people are, the more they tend to block it out.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah. I saw a video once, you speaking in front of a small pond or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it hit me. You said, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it.
That's right.
I never forgot that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That's right. What you don't feel, you can't heal. So, yeah, a lot of people do what we call a spiritual bypass on this one. They say, oh, no, feelings are not spiritual. We give those to the angels to deal with, or something to that effect. But we don't want people to wallow in their feelings and just, go right back into it, but to at least touch into how it felt at the time, whatever it was that has upset you. How did it feel, and how does it feel now? So there's an exploration, an inner investigation of how it affected them emotionally.
Do you have an explanation why this is so? Why is it important to feel the feelings?
Well, I think it goes back to the fundamental question of why are we here and what's the purpose of us having a body? If we were spiritual beings before, why have we chosen to come down to this earth plane where we have to deal with everything in terms of form, space, and time? And I believe that we took on a body in order to feel separation, that being the opposite of oneness. When we're in the spiritual realm, we're so into being all connected and all one that we don't really know what that is. It's like when everything is light, you don't know what darkness is. So we come into this earthbound experience in order to experience not only the opposite of oneness, which is separation, but also the opposite of love, which is non-love. Okay, and we do that through our emotional body. We need emotions. I believe the human experience is intended to be an emotional experience, and for that we need a body, and our body gives us the opportunity to feel feelings. Because without a body, we don't have feelings. So we are blessed with, if you like, our body is we are blessed with that in order for us to be able to experience existence as an emotional experience.
Oh,
that's my sense of it.
Thank you.
That's why I think it's so important that we acknowledge our feelings and don't judge them. We're given the ability to feel the full range of emotions, from bliss and joy at one end to absolute abject despair at the other, and none of those feelings are either positive or negative. They just are. So the only time when feelings become really toxic is when we deny them and repress them, and then they become highly toxic, and that takes us back to the cancer issue. Because if you deny your feelings and keep repressing them and pushing them away, sooner or later, that energy is going to come out somewhere. So that's why I think that stage number 2 is important. And at the workshops, we give people a lot of methods by which they can get in touch with their feelings, some of which use the body quite intensively.
Yes.
With a tennis racket and a cushion.
I'm getting the picture.
Yeah, it really works. But the third step or stage is what we call collapsing the story. This is the same as traditional forgiveness, really, because what we do with that is to say, okay, let's stand back for a little while. Let's look at it from a more rational point of view about what did happen, really, as opposed to what I think happened. Because we have a great tendency to want to add interpretations to the story, make it all about me, it's my fault, or it must be that I'm not lovable if they treat me that way, and all sorts of interpretations and unmet expectations. So it's an ability to just look at it more dispassionately, to try to reduce the power of the story to really upset us to the degree that it has upset us. The other part of that, too, is to say, okay, let me see if I can understand why this person did what they did to me. Let me walk in this person's shoes for a little while and exercise some empathy and compassion and mercy. And in order to, again, reduce the suffering that I have added to the story, I make a distinction, between pain and suffering. Pain is pain. If it really hurt, we're entitled to feel it and to express it. But what we do when we expand a story into what it really wasn't, that's what I call the suffering. And the suffering is optional. So it's at this stage in the game, at stage 3, where we say, I'm going to choose not to have the suffering. I feel my pain, and I'm entitled to my pain, but I'm going to give up the need to suffer.
And I think another very important word or concept here is decision.
Is what?
A decision. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I decide not to suffer anymore.
That's right.
I do have to want to.
Right. So that brings it. At least that brings the story down to a manageable proportion where people can go on living their life. But that's as far as traditional forgiveness can go. It can't go any further than that, because there is a fundamental belief at that point still that something wrong happened. Yeah. That you are still a victim, even though I'll try to see it differently. I'll try to understand why it happened and all that. I'm still a victim. That person still did something to me, and I can't get over it. Okay. So that's why traditional forgiveness takes forever, because we're still committed to being a victim and seeing what happened as being something unfortunate, shouldn't have happened. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or married the wrong person, or whatever other excuse we find for it. So now we come to stage number 4, which is the radical forgiveness step. And this is where we look at it from this completely different point of view. In actual fact, it's like a 180. We do a 180 on the belief system here, where we fundamentally come down to the idea that nothing wrong happened, that it was all part of what needed to happen and what I wanted to happen for my soul's growth. And that it was an experience that was not so much something that happened to me, but it happened for me. It happened for my soul's evolution, if you will. And that I, or my higher self, because this happens at the spiritual level, not at the intellectual or human level. There's 2 worlds we're looking at now. Once we go here, then we're looking at living simultaneously in the world of humanity on the one hand, which is our normal life, and then the world of spirit, which is a wholly different set of laws. The world of humanity operates under human law, and we have to abide by those things. But the world of spirit operates under spiritual law, and that's very different. So, it just simply requires us to be open to that possibility that everything happens for a reason. Not just one thing happens, but everything happens for a reason. That nothing is just random, and that everybody is doing a spiritual journey of some kind for the benefit of their own soul. Not only are they doing it for the benefit of their own soul, but for other souls too. So when somebody does something to me that I, at the human level, think is a victimization, at the spiritual level, it could well be that this person has done this for me maybe at great cost to themselves. They may have done something that would be criminal and they'd be sent to prison for it, but they did it for me as part of a soul contract, maybe, or I have enrolled them during my own lifetime and at spiritual level asked somebody to come in and give me an experience of separation or an experience of non-love, so that I can see that in relation to what love really is, if you understand. That probably wasn't put well, but you know what I mean. So once we open to that as a possibility, first of all, life takes on a wholly different meaning, and our experience of life all of a sudden becomes very interesting and humorous even. Yeah, I mean, you can even see a cosmic joke in it all. And it releases us, most important of all, it releases us from the idea that we are a victim of circumstances. We're not. We are in complete control of our life and our destiny. And anytime you look back, you can see how it unfolded just how it needed to unfold. Even at the time, it felt, well, I wish this wasn't happening.
Of course, yeah.
But when you look back at it, it's just you say, oh yeah, that's obvious that there was a plan there, that it took me to a whole new place, a whole new way of being that I would otherwise not have achieved. So that's stage number 4. The last stage, number 5, which I often forget to talk about, is where we integrate that into our physical body. We do something physical, like beat a cushion or go walking or breath work. We like to do it through breath work a lot at the workshops, so that this new consciousness gets integrated into the physical body, which is, after all, the antenna for our spiritual intelligence.
Very important. Otherwise, it just gets lost and dissipates. And
exactly. It's like I use the computer analogy. If you
save the file.
You uninstall one story and you put in another story, and because the old story, and this is where the need to do the forgiveness work comes in, because the old story lives in your body. It lives in it. Bruce Lipton is very clear on this, how every cell of the body holds those energies associated with victim consciousness. So unless we do the radical forgiveness work, even after we have understood the new way of thinking about it, we have got to go back in and clean out all that stuff out of our physical body and our mental body, emotional body, and spiritual body, so that we start in a very clean way, a very pure way, and so that those stories don't keep on revolving and coming back in our lives again, which they will if we don't do something to make sure that we've replaced that old story with the radical forgiveness story.
Exactly. So you need to break the pattern, so to speak, and clear the unconscious, or whatever you want to call it.
So that's basically the process, really. It's very simple, and people can do it very easily on their own, or they could do it with a coach. We train a lot of people to become coaches to help people to...
Oh, I think that's very helpful, because, I mean, if you are in a process, or even getting into the process, if you've never done it before, you're like very insecure, and how could this ever work, or am I doing it right, and blah blah blah, and then to get a coaching that might be very helpful until you get used to doing it.
Yes, exactly.
Becomes second nature.
Even just to show them how to use the worksheet, because you need to have them by you. I always say keep a stack of worksheets by the phone. Well, of course, we don't have static phones anymore, but I mean that was that was my idea when we have a phone that was on the wall, because oftentimes it's when somebody reminds you of what happened and takes you back into your old victim story. You need that worksheet handy to go through. But having a coach, I think, is extremely valuable, and helps you to integrate it into not just with that incidents that you want to try to heal, but now the coach can help you integrate it into your life as a way of being, as a philosophy of life. And that's when it becomes really transformational at that point.
Powerful, yes. I imagine.
Very, very transformational.
What I really liked about what you just said in stage 4 is, moving away from that place of believing in accidents, coincidences, and so on, and being at odds of the life and universe and you, for example, getting to a place of, wow, this can be a chance to grow. This is a lesson not, given me by God to, I don't know, to atone or anything, but to really see, oh my God, this can be beautiful. This can help. This can, I can grow.
Yeah. And that life is intentional. It's not accidental. Unfortunately, with the theories of science over the last 300 years and the theory of evolution, we've been taught that everything is accident, right from the primeval soup right up to present day, that we're all a product of random chance. Well, the science is showing that is not true anymore, that life is intentional. Now, whose intention that is, or how that intention comes about, is another question. But it's clear from the science that is now evolving that there is a definite intention to create life as it is, and it's evolutionary, not by chance, but by intention. So I'm excited about that. Greg Braden has recently been talking about that whole thing, and of course he's one of the experts that in both science and mysticism that I pay a lot of attention to.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, he's wonderful. But if I don't know whether this is a good time, if maybe
let's do it.
Folks would
absolutely
like
let's do it
to do a process, okay, where that they can feel it happen. So what it would require for those who are listening is to just bring to mind something in their own mind that's happened to them that was painful. I wish, we wish it wouldn't have happened, or it may even be happening now. It may be something that's on their mind. So just
could you do it like with me, and I just close my eyes and you guide me through it?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Good. So,
please, dear viewers, join us and be part of this.
Absolutely.
If you want to.
And it can be eyes closed or not eyes closed. It's up to you. Some people just don't feel safe if they close their eyes, but probably it's going to work a little better if you do. It's not hypnotic. So you're not going to go into an altered state in that sense. In fact, a lot of times, I put it on CD, people actually have it in their car and listen to it in their car. And just shout the answers as they're going along. But so it's up to you whether you close your eyes, but just listen and try to be non-judgmental about anything you hear. Okay, that's the only thing. And the first 3 steps, are just going to be, I'm going to ask you to think of your story and to feel the feelings. But after that, the rest are simply questions to which you answer yes. No is not an option. Okay, so it's very simple. You just, as I read out the questions, you will answer yes. Okay, all right. So tell me when you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, then step number 1. Take a moment to run through your mind the way in which you think you have been or are being victimized, and by whom. Allow yourself to be the victim totally, and allow yourself to feel all the feelings associated with the situation. You are entitled to those feelings, no matter what they are. So don't judge them or censure them. And I'm going to allow just a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds, for you to just breathe into your heart and feel those feelings. And as you breathe in and out, you might become aware of the place in your body where the emotion seems to be most located. If you can, put your hand on that place where they are most located. Good. And if tears need to come, let them flow. tears are very healing. Good. Okay, so step number 3. For the rest of these questions, you simply answer yes to all of them. I should have said that. Okay. Step number 3. Even if you don't understand how or why, are you willing to be open to the possibility that the situation may be purposeful and that your higher self has created this situation for your growth and spiritual awakening?
Yes.
Good. Try to say it fairly loud so your body feels the resonance of the word yes. Step
Yes.
number... Good, that's better. Good. Step number 4. Are you willing to entertain the possibility that your soul has actually asked for this experience as a way to ultimately know oneness through the experience of separation, and that this situation is a spiritual setup, perhaps even created as a soul-to-soul agreement prior to your incarnation?
Yes.
Good. Step number 5 then. Do you realize that your upset is providing an opportunity for you to awaken to the truth of who you are? And even if you cannot see it yet, the message to heal your misperceptions about reality is contained in this situation.
Yes.
Good. Step number 6. Are you willing to entertain the possibility that this situation is happening not so much to you as for you? If so, are you able to release your need to judge the situation as right or wrong, good or bad? Even if you cannot explain how or why, can you let go of your judgments and simply allow the situation to be perfect just the way it is?
Yes.
Good. Step number 7. Are you open to the idea that the situation itself or the people involved might be mirroring something in you that you have denied, repressed, and projected onto them, and that what is upsetting you about the other person represents a part of you that is crying out to be loved and accepted?
Oh, God. Yes.
That's right. We often have to say yes through clenched teeth. Step number 8. Even if you have no idea what that part of you is that you have disowned, are you willing to unconditionally love and accept that part of you right now in this moment?
Yes. Yes.
Perhaps you can feel your heart opening now to that part of you that you have rejected. If so, welcome it back, embrace it, and love it unconditionally right now.
Thanks.
Ready to go on? Okay, good. Step number 9. This is if others are involved. Are you willing to be open to the idea that you attracted them into your life and that subconsciously you are both receiving exactly what you both needed, enabling each of you to let go of your addiction to being a victim so you can reconnect with your true nature and awaken to the truth of who you are?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Step number 10. Do you now see that in recognizing them not as your victimizers, but as your healing angels, and yourself not as a victim, but as a healing angel for them, that everything is in divine order and that there is nothing to forgive?
Yes.
Good. Step number 11. Let me know when the feelings that you had at the beginning have begun to subside. Nod your head yes to confirm that this has happened and that you are now beginning to feel the divine love flowing through the apparent situation. Good. Excellent. And for the rest, other people, if it hasn't quite happened yet, that's fine too. Don't worry about that. Step number 12. Nod your head yes when the story that was attached to those feelings has lost some or most of its charge. Or maybe you can't even hardly remember what it was. Good. And finally, step number 13. Forgiveness being always a change in perception and a shift in energy, you may now begin to feel this occurring within you. Notice any sensations in your body that confirm that this is happening.
What is in me? A current?
Let me repeat that for
you. Please, yeah.
Forgiveness being always a change in perception and a shift in energy, you may now begin to feel this occurring within you.
Occurring.
Okay? So notice any sensations in your body that confirm that this is happening. It is through taking your attention away from the story that you had previously given your power to and focusing instead on the truth that the release occurs. Nod your head yes as you feel this happening and as you connect to the truth of who you are. Good. So this is the end of the process. You just simply take a deep breath. Make sure you're grounded and back in your body.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's it.
It feels like somehow like a domino line, one by one, and you can't let one out. And it's so logical, but not, in a mental way. It's like, yes, that's the next step. Has to be, can't be otherwise. It's like, wow. It's like that. And this chain is like, I don't know. Wow. It's what comes to mind is just it's safe, it's sure. You can make sure that it happens.
Yeah.
I couldn't have avoided the outcome.
Right.
And thank you personally, Colin. This has been quite a story for almost 4 years now.
Okay.
And I could not make sense of it.
Well, I would recommend that you journal this now. Then, if this came up real for you, just journal it a little bit and not try to make sense of it at all. Just journal your feelings and reactions. That's really what's really important, rather than any analysis of it. Okay. Because,
I realized that him and I we had the same problem, psychologically.
Yeah.
So I can't blame him for being like me.
Right. And by the way, this process is on our website for free. You can simply download it and put it on your iPhone. And use it frequently. So if this is a deep pain for you, you might want to do this again a few times. And so that's it. A lot of our stuff is just available for free on the website. All the worksheets are free. It's radicalforgiveness.com, so it's easy to remember. Some of them, we have some in German. And of course, Hina has all of them in German.
Yeah.
Her version, the version that she probably has for the 13 steps might be a little different from mine, but it's more or less the same. I keep changing it, much to her annoyance. But it's all the same. It's all the same. I write it according to the group that I'm working with.
Yeah.
So that it fits the group. Because I do this for business people as well, you know. It makes a difference to how they run their business.
I can very much imagine.
Yes, yes. So it has a very, very broad application. Once you really integrate it, you can apply it to almost any aspect of your life. But I'm trying to get it into business in a way that people can use it in specific situations, especially conflict resolution, and also to for young executives or executives that are about to be promoted. And the idea there is that the figures show that 48% of executives that get promoted fail in the first 18 to 24 months, which is disastrous both for them and the company. And that the reason that they fail is that when they reach that level of responsibility and money and everything else, all of their old shit comes up. And they start sabotaging themselves and everybody around them because their subconscious is saying, you don't deserve it, you don't deserve this, you know, what if your father told you you're never going to make it? So, so if I can get those executives before that kicks in, I can save their career for them.
And a lot of money for the company.
A lot of money for the company. So I do what I call a VIP day with them. I have them for one whole day. And we, first of all, investigate to see if they've got any of that old stuff in there. And then if they have, then we clear it out. And
Wonderful.
then I keep in touch with them to make sure it doesn't kick in again. So it has a very, very wide application. And it has the propensity to change the world if we can only spread the word wide enough.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's been a really cool experience. And I was really amazed how quickly the feelings came. Yeah, they were like, bang, they were there. And but they were also gone quite quickly. Yeah. So yeah, it's
beautiful. Like it moves through the body. It starts the whole process of moving it out of the body, out of the emotional and physical body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah. So you have actually helped people cure their cancer. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I can't use the word cure, obviously, because you know that's something that
I know. Legally, blah blah blah. I know.
But what we always said when we were doing the cancer retreats is that this is not about curing cancer; it's about healing your life. And I know we've made a huge difference to a lot of people. I've never really been interested in following up how long they lived afterwards or anything like that. I just could see the shift in people after 5 days, how different they were. And nearly all of them would say to me at the end of the retreat, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I now know who I am, and whether I live or die is inconsequential to me now. That's a big healing in and of itself.
And that's quality as opposed to quantity. I mean, it's not only about living longer, but it's about living better.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I, as you know, I've recently had the experience of cancer myself. I don't know whether you want me to say a little bit about that.
I'd love to hear about that.
Okay.
And starting by that, thank you for sharing this. It's so honest, you know. I mean, the radical forgiveness guy, you're the dude, right?
Yeah.
And it happens to you, and you admit to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's come full circle for me, you know. what is it, almost 25 years, and all of a sudden I get rectal cancer. This was diagnosed in May of 2015. Funnily enough, I wasn't shocked. I said, oh, how interesting. You know, it's just like, it didn't faze me at all, which is quite surprising. I was surprised, however, given the amount of work that I'd done, and also that there's nothing in my family. So why me? That's the old victim's question, of course. Why me?
Sure, yeah. Why not the other one?
That's right. It shouldn't happen to me. Whose fault is it? Who do I blame? Most of all myself. That's the first one. That's the first one you usually go to.
Oh my God, yeah.
I must have done something wrong. I can't be the real spiritual person that I thought I was. You know, so that's a big trap for people who are in that position. And I did go there for a little while, but I made a point of. I did a lot of voice dialogue with the cancer. What's the message that you have for me? Why have you come? What do I need to do? So I got a lot of help from Spirit. I got a lot of help from the people. I put it out there on the internet to my group. I have 30,000 people on my list. I put it out there. I said, my ass is on the line here. I need some help.
Oh my God.
Send me healing energy, but do not give me advice. I made that. I don't want you to tell me what to do. Just send me energy. And I believe that really made an impact, because by November, it had gone. Now so I was faced with the choice that a lot of people are faced, especially people who do with spiritual work. Do I do chemo? Do I do radiation? Do I do alternative? And if so, which one? So I was faced with that same dilemma that millions of people are faced with. And so I embraced both. I did some radiation. I did some chemotherapy, and I went to England and did what they call brachytherapy, which is direct radiation, contact radiation. They actually put a probe up your backside and put the probe actually on the tumor, and then hit it with radiation for about 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. By the end of November, it had gone, cleared up. Okay, so I did acupuncture, I did hemp oil, CBD, as well as a lot of spiritual work and whatever. But it had gone. Well, in May of this year, it came back again. And so I had MRIs, the whole bit, and they wanted to do major surgery, because they said that the cancer had gone beyond the rectum wall into the tissue behind, where there was a lot of nerves. And if I had this surgery, would put me in hospital for about 4 weeks, I could come out with incontinence, sexual dysfunction, a paralyzed leg, and God knows what else, because they wanted to take away the bottom 3 bones of my vertebrae, of my spine. Mm-hmm. That put me in a trance. Believe me. But I said, okay, I'll do it. In the meantime, and this is how Spirit works. In the meantime, while I was in Ukraine doing a workshop there, my interpreter gave me an article. Actually gave it to Joanne to give to me, because he was frightened to interfere with me, with my process. And it was about German new medicine. I had never heard of it before. But it's actually, what it turns out to be is radical forgiveness on steroids. Because it's a completely different approach to the idea of what disease is. And without going too far into it, what happens is that this German doctor, and unfortunately most of the information is still written in German, but what happens when you have a shock, an emotional shock, that gets into a certain part of the brain. And there are several different areas of the brain that he isolated, that different types of shocks tend to house this energy, which is detectable by a CAT scan. It can actually be seen on a CAT scan. That's why he calls it biological. It's not a mental thing. It's not anything to do with bad thinking or, you know, any of that. It's just a biological thing. So unless that shock or trauma is resolved fairly soon after it had happened, in order for the psyche to be protected, it removes that energy and puts it into the corresponding place in the body that is linked to that part of the brain and also has a relevance to the type of trauma it is. So the cancer is, in fact, a healing response. That's how different it is, okay? And the remedy for it is simply to resolve the conflict that was at the beginning of that process. And of course, I have that process. It's radical forgiveness. So what I did, I came home. First of all, I canceled the surgery. I said, no thanks. Thank you, but no thanks. And I would have had it done in England, which would have been free anyway. Thanks, but no thanks. So, sorry about that. So I decided that that's what I did. So I came home and I did a timeline of my life, every shock I'd ever had, all the way down my life, and a lot of them. Nearly all of them related to two types of trauma. One of them was sort of as existential in the sense of I always was, my home base was always threatened. I didn't have a home base. I kept moving. When I got divorced, I was the one who left the house and all of that. Right from early days in my life, it had always been that I was never quite sure of my security of home, which of course is lower root chakra stuff. That's what happens in your root chakra. It's all about being safe in your body, being safe in your house, being safe everywhere else, and secure. So there was a very strong pattern of that, and that is one of the things that he talks about. The other one was the digestive system. The analogy there was that I had, on my pattern, I could see that I had started a lot of projects and a lot of ideas that had never come to fruition. Mm-hmm. It's like it went through the digestive system perfectly, but when it came to eliminate it and put it out into the world, like a piece of shit, it didn't happen. Yeah. That energy would get stuck there. So everything pointed towards why I would have gotten cancer in the rectum and nowhere else. Because CAT scan showed it was nowhere else, just there. So I resolved them. I did worksheets on all of those. And at the end of that day, I said to myself, it's gone. I'm pretty damn sure it's gone. I don't know that for a fact yet. I'm booked in for some MRIs in the next week or two to confirm it. If it has, I will put this story out in a big way about German new medicine, because it really is, it does, for me, what it does is validates everything I've ever done in relation to radical forgiveness and cancer.
Wonderful.
So that I believe Spirit has given me this as the next stage in my teaching, if you like, about radical forgiveness and cancer, because that's where it started 25 years ago. And now I'm at the next stage where it becomes validated by science. And up to now, I have not had that, of course.
That was exactly, that was the missing link. You needed to know where the conflict is biologically. And Dr. Hammer, he says...
you're familiar with it,
A little bit, yeah. He says there is no psychosomatics. He just says there is biological conflicts. Yeah,
that's right.
That's already in itself, that's very radical. That's, he hasn't been that successful yet, because was a lot of story going around him and the way he is, and
that's right.
Da da da. But you know, the idea of the new medicine is powerful, really.
It really is. And several people now, of course, now that I've put it out there, have contacted me over here in the States and Canada, that they have been practicing it for 15 years or more. Well, one person anyway has been practicing it with clients for 10 years. So she must have a pretty good record. So I'm going to be talking with her shortly. And once I know my status, then I'll be looking at this in a much greater depth.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
Wonderful. Thank you for your honesty again, for telling this story. Beautiful.
Thank you.
So now
well, I hope the ending is beautiful. Yeah. Either way, it will be. But I hope it will prove that that the cancer has gone. You know.
What really impresses me, if I may say, Colin, is that you don't have the notion, oh, here I am, Mr. Radical Forgiveness. I cannot share this because that would make me look bad, you know, image-wise. And you don't do that. You have done enough forgiveness to kind of like be above that, and that you are rooted in yourself, in spirit, basically, in the knowing that everything is okay the way it happens. So you're proving your own point.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
And even if it has come back and is still there, that's perfect too. You know, because then I'll have a different challenge to look at and to proceed with. But it's all. You know, it's very difficult when you're going through something like this to actually see the perfection. It's only in your quiet time when you contemplate it and try to look back, you begin to see how Spirit has been working in your life all the way through since I started doing this work. And it's all led up to this point.
Wow.
And nothing wrong has happened. There's been no mistakes. I haven't screwed up. I haven't done it wrong. It's just what is, and being with what is the challenge. That's the spiritual work, really, just accepting what is.
Accepting, trying and starting to understand, not trying to control it, just seeing what really is. Then you see that it's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. So thank you very much for everything. Yeah. When are you coming to Germany again, or Switzerland, for that matter?
I've got 2 things going on in Switzerland later on in the year. I'm going to be attending Hina's reunion with all her coaches, but I haven't got since Hina is doing so much herself in Germany, I basically leave that area to her because she's just wonderful. She's incredible practitioner, and she's a healing angel. So I don't need to be there. She's great. But I do have a retreat to do on the shores of Lake Constance. That would be in August.
Me. No. When exactly? Do you know?
Yes, it's the August. Let's see, where are we? August 15th to the 19th.
Because we want to do a physical forgiveness conference in Germany.
Oh.
Next year, probably Easter next year.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to ask you and Hina, of course.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that some other time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's called, in German, it's called Bodensee, Lake of Constance, which to me is a beautiful symbol for, the 3 German-speaking countries, Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. They all border to that lake.
Okay, I'm going to be, the retreat center is called Schloss Glerzig. I know I said that badly, but is that, are you familiar
you're
with
forgiven. You're forgiven.
that? I had to think about what it.
Schloss Glarisek, yeah.
Yeah. We were there last year and did a retreat there, and it was wonderful. So we thought we're going to do self-forgiveness this year.
Who doesn't need that, right?
Right. Self-forgiveness and self-acceptance. Yeah, that's the topic for the 4-day retreat there.
Wonderful.
And then I'm doing a relationship workshop with my beautiful friend and also coach, Margaret Hardiger.
Yeah, I'm going to interview her tomorrow.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a wonderful person. So, yeah. Well, when you interview her, before you start, do say hi from me, and send her my love. But very dear friend, and we spend a lot of time over there with her. I always make a point of having at least 3 or 4 days in addition to whatever work we're doing, so that we can be with her.
Wonderful. Okay, this has become a little unofficial now with my daughter coming in.
I got you.
Nonetheless, thank you so much for this beautiful interview and for teaching us, me and the viewers, this wonderful process of yours. Thank you so much, Colin.
My pleasure, and thank you for doing it.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.